Good afternoon. This is Heather Van Wild with Raindrop Works, coming to you from park outside Lloyd Center Mall. We ended up finishing up what we were able to do today with the pretrial motions in the Alan Swinney case earlier than planned. So there is no afternoon court session today. That being said, there was still a ton of stuff that came out of today's session. First off, there did have to be a warning about no unauthorized recordings in a courtroom, which is something that I've known going forward. But according to the DA, there were some people there today who had had issues in the past. So the judge made it very clear. That said, going forward for the trial itself, which is going to happen next week, there is going to be some changes from how things would normally work because of the interest in this case, as well as social distancing and COVID restrictions and things like that. First off, the actual courtroom where the trial will be is actually going to be closed to the public. There will be instead 2 courtrooms set aside as observation rooms. One will be set aside for people who are there supporting the defendant Alan Swinney. They will be able to be in courtroom 8B, which is where Judge Moad's courtroom normally is, but they're going to be setting up the trial on the 11th floor instead. It's, from what I'm told, it's a larger courtroom, so it's going to be easier for them to work with situating the jurors and everything like that. There is also going to be an observation room set aside for, I hesitate to say supporters of the state's position, but it is intended for those who are more antagonistic towards Alan Swinney and his ideologies. Unfortunately, I missed which courtroom is going to be set aside for that. All I know is it's not going to be on the 8th or 11th floor. They said that all 3 relevant rooms are going to be on separate floors from each other, so to help mitigate the risk of any interactions between different parties or the jurors or anything like that. They have given permission, which was a request that I had made when I sent my request to the judge's staff. I suggested a few possibilities on how to document the court proceedings, and they went with, they are going to open the trial for streaming by WebEx, which is something that they do with a number of hearings and trials that I've been involved with. And they are giving us permission to copy and restream the broadcasts. So that means that I actually have permission from the court to work from home. I can see everything that any of the other participants that would be in any of the observation rooms would be able to see. I'll just be able to do it from home, and I can give commentary if there's stuff that seems to be important. We have confirmed that there won't be any public access of any of the jury selection criteria, which was something the idea of jury selection being open to the public, I had no idea that was even a possibility. I never suggested it. But they have essentially agreed that Monday will be set aside for jury selection. They don't anticipate getting into actual trial stuff until Tuesday, and the witnesses are supposed to be getting told essentially the same thing, that they don't need to worry about showing up on Monday. So that was a huge starting point, and it took a while to get all the information together from that. Going forward, we did hear several motions today, and some stuff was tabled to be researched over the weekend by the judge and by the attorneys in the case. The first one was a motion that Mr. Westover, Mr. Swinney's public defender, had brought forward a few weeks ago, and I had concerns about the claims that were being made. Basically, the allegations were based on claims of improper instructions being given to the grand jury about separating the actions of August 15th from August 22nd and making sure that indictments were done separate for those incidences. And his claims was that that was done improperly, and as such it gave an impression of him being more violent, or an impression of violence where it may not have been warranted, was the defense's claim with that. It turns out there is a lot of changes in case law and statutes in Oregon that cover the grand jury process, where the state has tried to take steps to make it harder for the DA to misuse the system. Basically, what normally happens is if there's allegation of a crime, evidence is gathered, the DA will convene a grand jury who hears the evidence and then comes back and says that they'll either sign a true bill, which is the indictment of, we agree there's probable cause that this person did this thing on this day to this person. Or there's a not true bill, which we never see because those just go poof. Mr. Westover tried to make a claim that there should have been two grand juries, one for August 15th and one for August 22nd. And that obviously did not happen. It would have originally set up for two trials that they could have asked to have them consolidated. I understand where he was going with that. I'm not sure that, given the circumstance, that would have been a good use of court resources. But that is, that's not my call to go into there. There was a very spirited defense from the state, explaining the statute of the law, where we do have changes to court statutes where witness testimony in a grand jury has to be recorded and can be reviewed by the defense in the actual trial. That is something that used to not happen, and there's nothing requiring the entire grand jury proceeding to be recorded. And there's also laws that basically lay out that whatever recordings come from the grand jury can't be used for a motion, like for a motion to dismiss. My understanding is it's more the idea that it lets the defense hear what the witness is alleging happened in the grand jury proceedings, so that they understand that going into the actual trial. There were references to due process concerns, which, interestingly enough, Oregon, in its constitution, does not have a due process clause. So anytime there's questions about due process, we either have to look at what courts have said or look at federal interpretations, basically the Supreme Court. And the allegations that Mr. Westover was making, it claimed they didn't run afoul of any Fourth or Fifth Amendment rights. There were recently changes that were done in the indictment process because of a 30-year-old case law that did get overturned in the last year. It was after Mr. Swinney was indicted, and now. So there are changes to the grand jury process as a result of that, but it didn't really play into what we had here today. At the end of the day on this, though, the judge did say that, in her view, that the grand jury process is due great deference, and that you shouldn't go against the grand jury's opinion lightly. And the questions about the instruction of separating the 2 days, she didn't feel was such an egregious error that it warranted a outright dismissal of the case. So we went into, since that didn't work, he also tried to move to sever the cases. My understanding was to separate, charges from the 15th and charges from the 22nd and have them tried by 2 different juries to prevent evidence of one day from tainting the appearance to the jury of the other day. One of the examples that he had was a previous case that he had done where he had asked a police officer who was a witness to draw his gun. And the effect on everyone in the courtroom of having, a police officer as part of a testimony drawing this gun was incredibly chilling. I mean, just hearing what he asked for made me clench a little bit. And his thought was, because there were allegations of interactions with a lethal firearm on the 22nd, but not on the 15th. Because as far as I know, on the 15th, Mr. Swinney was only alleged to have a paintball gun. It was the 22nd that he had the paintball gun and the pistol. That said, the judge said that she has more faith in the jury being able to separate those 2 instances out. And when it comes down to jury instructions during the trial, they will definitely be well instructed to treat the 2 days separately, because there are charges that arise from incidences on the 15th and charges from the 22nd. So that she really had no concerns there and went ahead and denied that motion as well. We ended the day going over some of the evidence and questions and objections. Basically, and this is an area where I have limited experience, so I'm trying to interpret as best I can, but evidence has to be very cause and effect related. If you have to start drawing inferences from one thing to another, it becomes very subjective, and courts tend to not allow it unless there is a very good reason where that connection is necessary. A lot of what we ended up talking about today dealt with a whole bunch of social media posts on Parler that Mr. Swinney had made, both in the months before as well as the weeks after the incidences in August. I'm going to go ahead and go over them after, in just a minute here, but from what I saw, it really did feel like it showed a pretty clear progression, but there were questions that it sounds like some of the posts are not going to be allowed to be admitted as evidence. Some will have to have some redactions done, and some will definitely be allowed, and we're likely not going to know what those are until the actual trial happens, because that information is going to be mulled over the weekend, and then we get into jury selection and things that I won't be able to be involved in. That said, there was a post that the judge saw that she did recognize the OK sign that's been co-opted by far-right movements as referencing either 3%ers or white power. Mr. Westover did call out later on, and I do have to say I think it was a good call on his part, that making that assertion would be prejudicial, and that's one of the things that may be redacted, is a photo of a bunch of unrelated people flashing white power signs, and that's the kind of thing that could cause issues with the jury that you want to try to avoid. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and read some of these parlays in a minute here, but I was really impressed at how well the judge could deadpan, cold reading these posts, especially with how many of them were openly antagonistic towards members of the justice and law enforcement communities in Portland. And that's just, it definitely seemed to be setting a tone. There was also concerns about a jail letter that, Mr. Swinney had apparently sent from jail to Derek Chauvin, the Minneapolis police officer that was convicted of killing George Floyd. And that could have been something problematic, but it seems like that particular letter, which I don't know anything about the contents of, may end up being removed from the evidence pile. There are also a series of jail phone calls that there are plans to admit into evidence. I haven't gotten to hear any of those or know what kind of context they are. A whole bunch of videos. I'm hoping to have a better view of some of the videos when we actually go to trial. So a lot of the later half of what we ended up going over was references to posts that Mr. Swinney had made on Parler and then got documented by the DA's office. Going back all the way to July of 2020, when he said, "We need help. We're planning a flag wave in Antifa Park in Portland July 11th. We all got our Facebook accounts disabled because we had a flag wave around Chaz on the 4th of July. Please help by sharing this post. We need patriots to follow us. We need to be able to get the word out about these events. We're boots on the ground. The absolute tip of the spear, the tip of the spear as far as the right's answer to the left's violence. Help us by following us. Help us get the messages out. Please echo. We got 3 Chaz terrorists arrested Sunday. Help us add to that number. Please echo." And then there was a picture of, it's an incomplete picture, but it is a picture of what looks like a crusader, like from the Crusades of Middle Ages, with a whole bunch of arrows stuck in a shield and tattered armor. Later in the day, he sends another post with similar iconography saying, "The last crusade has already started. Just join us, follow me." A week later, then mid-July, he sends out, "If you're down to do some real patriot shit, follow me. If you don't know who I am, search Alan Swinney in Google. We're literally fighting the militant wing of the left. We need your help. We can beat them if we work together." And this was a month before the first of the incidences that led to the indictment here. It already is showing, he seems to have this belief that he has to, or people have to actively fight what he sees as a violent left, that people that don't agree with him may very well be actual terrorists. And he expounds on that in later messages here. The next day he says, "We'll be having a flag wave in a town called Sandy on Friday and possibly Saturday also, depending on how Friday goes. It's a little town outside Portland. My plan is to hit these little towns and recruit. Then we all go into Portland together. I'll get some video and post them here. If you're in Portland area, come out. Flag waves are tons of fun, and there are just enough libtards around to make it even more entertaining. If you have people from Oregon following, please echo this post. If all this stuff has been pissing you off, here's your chance to do something. Even if you can't be here yourself, echoing this post will boost our numbers. This group is actively fighting the left. That whole sentence was in capitals, not figuratively. We get toe-to-toe with these, quote, people. To date, I've helped get 83 of these clowns arrested, 3 by way of the hospital and 5 off to prison. Come help us. We can do more if we work together. This was a post that Mr. Westover had a lot of concerns with because of the implication that it painted him as a violent person. Without having more information about, where his claims are, it's hard to say. This may be one the judge ends up throwing out, though. That said, I mean, he does, say that it's not figuratively, we are literally fighting, which that feels problematic to me. Again, July 17th. This isn't turning into a civil war. It is a civil war. How do I know? Because they are throwing explosives at me. I don't know what he's referencing there, but the fighting has already started. When you get tired of losing, contact me. Upvote and echo this post. We need numbers. I'm currently camped out, deployed, in the National Forest outside of Portland. We move between here and Rainier National Forest outside of Seattle. When you have time, come join us. We back up local sheriffs and patrol the perimeter of each city. We need guys. We need vets, patriots. Come join us. Bring a tent and bedroll. Camping in the National Forest is free and it's breathtaking here. Aside from kicking terrorists' asses, again, calling people that you disagree with terrorists and threatening violent, saying that you're going to beat them, it has that premeditation feel, at least to me. Camping in the National Forest is free and breathtaking. Aside from kicking terrorist asses, there's hiking, gold panning, kayaking. We have an old school Civil War camp out. History is being written right now. Come be a part of it. We can beat these people easily. It's time to get started. If you can't be here but would still like to help echo and upvote, you can recruit from anywhere. MAGA. So it definitely, the narrative starts shifting more towards a military battle plans mindset, which he does point out later on. He is a veteran of the first Iraq, Gulf War in the 90s, so he does have military experience. July 22nd, there was apparently some sort of incident I don't have a lot of information about, but he says, this cat seriously almost got shot. He was screaming at me and started to charge me, so I reached for my weapon and he stopped. He was foaming at the mouth with rage. Sounds like hyperbole, but okay. You, in capitals, you will not terrorize me. And he goes on, do not violate my right to free speech. Do not violate my right to peacefully assemble. Do not violate my freedom of movement. Do not violate me. It'll be hazardous to your health. You won't make me afraid to walk down the sidewalk. I fought a war for this country. I'll fight another for it. I'll fight another for it. It definitely, this sounds like someone who is itching for a confrontation. I do have to wonder, and I'm not going to be able to ask, but if the shoe was on the other foot, if somebody else was, having a protest, would he let them be, or would he try to interfere if he didn't agree with their position? Would he threaten to use force against somebody that he doesn't agree with? And this does, as we keep going on here, we then go to August 12th, which is just a few days before the first of the incidences. He points out, at this point is when he says he is no longer a Proud Boy. I hadn't realized until just the other day when I first saw this that he had actually left the Proud Boys. I had heard in the wake of his arrest that they were disavowing him, and I thought it was because he basically got caught, but it sounds like he had given up on them first. He said that he'll be back after Torrio got voted out. The best thing about Proud Boys, or the best thing they can do at this point, is to rid themselves of Enrique. In unrelated news, I believe he was actually just sentenced to about 6 months in jail in Washington, D.C. for theft and destruction of private property, as well as having high-capacity magazines inside the city limits, which are banned. But like I said, that's unrelated to this. About our Flag Wave Monday, about 10 of them showed up. We had more than 70 show up total. They had 10, but we had 60 plus. Our group is much larger than theirs. They really aren't helping the cause. They are like a wrecking crew when they show up. They start talking to the other patriots and spread dissension. We've outgrown the boys. We can do this without them here. They don't just do this with our group. They do it with any patriot group that doesn't follow their orders. If you're a patriot group in the Northwest and need help, don't waste your time with them. I'm getting a network together here and can move people around. Contact me. I say again, I am no longer a Proud Boy. I have zero confidence in the leadership, only the leadership. I have a ton of friends in the Proud Boys. They need a real leader in charge, though. Yeah, so there was definitely dissatisfaction, and that's something that you see anytime you have a movement that gets to a significant size and for a significant amount of time. There were questions before about, for Proud Boys supposedly being a white chauvinist organization, Eric Torito is not straight white. There is, I'm not sure his family background, but that was something that other people have noticed before was a little bit unusual. So then we move on. The next post that Mr. Vasquez was trying to submit was August 16th. This was the day after the first of the indictment dates. Haha, one of the terrorists is crying to the Portland police about getting hit by a paintball. I don't know all the details, but he said they were pushing assault charges. Here's the thing, I know the lefties in charge of Portland would love to hem me up on the assault charges, but if they think I'm going to turn myself into an angry mob, they are insane, LOL. Whoever's in charge of Portland can fuck all the way off. You're not going to tell me how I can defend myself. I guess you're just going to have to rely on your defunded police department to pick me up. I say again, all you lefty judges, DAs, city council, and mayors can get bent. Americans are going to be treating you like tyrants very soon. Don't tread on me. Democrats have become too extreme to govern. That's what Trump says. I believe him. I don't think I'm going to let them govern me anymore. Take the charges and stick them up your ass. This was, this said a lot. First off, it's basically an admission that he shot somebody in the face, and this is one of the witnesses, or one of the victims involved with August the 15th. It also starts to show his utter disdain for the justice system that we have in place, which is the same as anywhere else in the country. The justice system is supposed to be nonpartisan, and the fact that he is saying that all these people can get bent, that he's not going to let us govern him, it definitely starts putting out the us versus them mentality that becomes very concerning. A few days after that, between the 2 weeks here, we have hundreds of patriots will be converging on the Justice Center this Saturday, August the 22nd, D-Day, again with the military iconography. The left has always said we were lucky that the cops were there protecting us. You have successfully removed the cops. Now you get to deal with we the people. You let your mouth overload your ass. What on earth will we do without the cops there protecting us? You won't want to miss Saturday. Follow and turn on notifications. It's time to take this country back. Now, there is definitely a clear, escalation where he knows that there's going to be an altercation, and he's feeling emboldened because there's nobody holding him back anymore. The morning of the 22nd, there's Portland, Oregon, Sunday, August 22nd, Justice Center, and capitals. This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. And then it links a clip from the movie 300 of the Hot Gates battle. Basically, he's seeing himself as one of the 300 Spartans that's going up against the Persian armies. It's definitely a heroic feeling story, but the Spartans died. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where he's going with that. A few days after now, we go August 25th. I guess stuff like this is why I'm getting followers in England. I've always said that when this kicks off, it's going to be global. It's going to be a global civil war between patriots and left-wing extremists. The difference between America and England, though, is that the governments of Europe have made it almost impossible for conservatives to defend themselves. The left has been set up in the United States. They've been made to believe that they can beat conservatives here, even though American conservatives are the largest freestanding army in the world. Again, more and more military iconography. The lefties here are too stupid to understand that when they successfully start the civil war here, they'll be crushed in a week. It's not going to be easy for patriots in Europe. No worries, though. After we crush the leftists here, we'll come there and help you if I have anything to say about it. It's time to purge this world from the evil that's infested it. And this post came with a picture showing him pointing a paintball gun at someone, apparently as part of a newspaper headline. You know, and that's... Not only is there the us versus them mentality that is incredibly concerning and damaging to, civil discourse, but there's also the view that anybody that doesn't agree with his view needs to be exterminated. And that has concerns for me. And there's another post a few days, the following day, there's a reference to a picture, but I don't actually see the picture that it's supposed to be, saying, study the picture. The blood from this peaceful protester is what they want you to see, but the reason for the blood is in his hand. I had no fewer than 15 death threats Saturday. Probably many more that I didn't hear. 3 people said they had guns and were going to kill me. Probably more that I didn't hear. You will not terrorize me. I'm going to wave flags in every square inch of this country that you say I can't. I know people want to kill me, and that's okay. None of us are getting out of here alive. I made my peace with dying for this country 30 years ago in Iraq. If they get me, 100 pissed off Americans will take my place. They won't win this, even if I'm not here to see this through. I know what the final result will be. This is America. We're Americans. We'll beat you. There is no scenario where you win this. Our victory is a mathematical uncertainty. Again, more of the us versus them. Another post a few days later saying, all my heroes killed terrorists. The hyperbole of treating anyone who disagrees with you as a terrorist, and this doesn't seem to matter if they are violent or not, armed or not. He seems to be equating anyone who holds a different view as this. So a few days later then, September 3rd. Okay, so if you guys want to go to a rally to wave American flags and you don't let the left attack you, this is what you can expect from our justice system. There's a grand jury deciding today whether or not to prosecute me for hitting a guy in the eyebrow with a paintball. Please echo, this is very important. Moments like these are what determine the course of our country. Will our government let us defend ourselves? Will they make us submit to mob rule? Go through my timeline and judge me. Don't let a liberal justice system railroad me. I'm taking these chances for all of us. It's your turn to help. We're louder as a group. Make some noise. After they get me, they're coming for you. September 3rd would have been, for one, it was in the wake of Jay Danielson getting killed. September 3rd was the day that Mike Reinell got shot up in Lacey, Washington, when the cops were supposedly serving a warrant for his arrest. This was also around the same time as the grand jury was convening, and they did end up filing a secret indictment. And a few days later, so you want to wave flags at the Justice Center, get suited up. They won't make it easy. I was in the Army and played football for a couple years when I got out. This is the perfect blend of the two. And then there is this picture of him, kitted out with all of his gear that he posted with that parlay. September 12th, another post here. Thought the 22nd was tough. The 26th will be tenfold. And there's a screenshot of a YouTube video where the thumbnail is him pointing a revolver at another person, which is the basis of one, if not more, of the charges against him from the 22nd. Going back a couple days, there was one parlay in here that was out of order. Back to September 2nd, which was a few days after he heard rumors about the first lawsuit. In Iraq, our unit deployed over 4,000 trucks and jeeps, 220 armored personnel carriers, 48 artillery pieces, 24 tanks, and 26 jets. Showing off, basically, just talking about what the military was using. I wonder how many lawsuits Iraqis have pending on me. Oh yeah, I don't care about that either. We're going to take this country back from you. What you experienced Saturday at the Justice Center was just the tip of the iceberg. You're in our country, we're not in yours. And I have to take a minute from that one because that one hits me very close. No, we're all in the same country. I don't share his ideology, but that doesn't mean that I'm a foreigner in this country. The ability to have disagreeing views is one of the things that makes this a free country, or it's supposed to be. The fact that I can say, I disagree with you and not worry that somebody is going to shoot me just because of that is one of the things that lets me be able to do the work that I'm doing here. And as a veteran myself, looking at this as something another veteran says, this just hurts me deeply. That being said, going back, so September 20th, this was a couple of weeks after the grand jury indictment was, it was signed, but it was sealed, so it wasn't available to the public. Leftists are losing their mind that I'm not in jail right now for this, with a picture of him pointing the gun again. I won't be going to jail either. The grand jury started a couple of weeks ago. It has to be over by now. No warrant by now, meaning they dropped it most likely. If my life's in danger or the lives of innocent people around me, I'll pull a gun. Every time, without question. These people who show up violently shut down our right to peacefully assemble and support our political candidate are terrorists. Literal terrorists. They aren't Americans. That... If you don't support my candidate, or if you don't want me talking positively about my candidate, you're a terrorist, and you are not a U.S. citizen. That just boggles my mind. And that's not something I say, it doesn't matter to me which side of the ideology you're on that. They are seditionists, insurrectionists, domestic enemies of the Constitution. If they were in another country, we would have started drone strikes on them by now. I won't go to jail for this, and I hear the lawsuit has already been dropped. It hadn't been. If the results of the grand jury investigation was that I was justified in pulling my weapon, then somebody getting hit by a paintball would be incidental. These people are terrorists. Really, real terrorists. Again, at this point now, there are 3 different lawsuits naming Mr. Swinney. 2 against him directly, and 1 that name him and a couple others. I do plan to start following up more on those, especially as we start moving with jury selection processes are starting to become more virtual. They are hoping to be able to start getting more of the civil cases litigated instead of pushing them out months and months and months because of COVID. Then the last part, I promise, we're almost done here. We have our unit large enough now that we have specialized teams inside our unit. Combat and support. 90% of people who come out here want to be on the front line, but the front line isn't for everyone. I'm not even best suited for the front line. I'm too tall. 2/3 of any combat mission is support. A frontline soldier can't do his job without it. He can't carry enough weight with him to properly do his job, or do his job to the fullest without support. Coming at one of our rallies doesn't mean you have to directly fight the people who come to attack us. There are many ways you can help. It's no secret where we'll be. Come here and help us. You can have as much or as little action as you want. We'll help you find the job that matches your skills. As someone, if I just look at these tweets without the context, it feels to me like he was trying to build his own military. Him and other like-minded people. And yeah, that's something that's going to concern me. I don't know what we're going to be looking at coming into this next week. I know that there have been talks of there being, flag waves and demonstrations outside of the courthouse all next week. With us knowing now there's not going to be any trial on Monday, as well as knowing that there are going to be the observation rooms. I don't know how big those demonstrations are going to be outside now. They may instead go inside to actually watch the proceedings. As I believe I said before, my plan is to stream the trial. Do it as a live stream where I can sit in and react and try to give context or answer questions. As I get more information over the weekend, I'm definitely going to go ahead and put updates out. You can check online at Twitter. That's going to be the easiest place. I'll probably also have a pinned document up on our website with more information to help people figure this out. And yeah, if you feel like you're able to support, I've gotten a lot of great help this month to help getting through this far. September was a really tough month. But I'm going to go ahead and try to get links in the description of the video to where you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, no, I dropped the Facebook, but Twitter, donation links, our website, things like that. And definitely, it's still a great day out here. Go ahead, try to have some fun. I get a little bit of sun, and we'll just have to buckle in and see what comes from the next week or two. Take care.